every residential street in the township is generally that width. Is there a concern if there's an accident at the entrance to the development and you have 110 apartments there that you can't get to? That there is, but there is no specific ordinance no specific requirement in our ordinance to provide emergency access.
And then addressing the school kids, did I hear you say they have to cross a commercial parking lot to get to Richard Road?
No, they would be going along a pathway that would be along the parking lot, not within the parking lot.
So there'll be a sidewalk there for them?
There'll be some improved pathway, yeah.
Mechanic.
Yeah, it might be mechanic, yeah, absolutely.
And somebody would be in charge of plowing that or clearing it on snowy days?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, that's my questions.
I'm Dave Fish, living in Pine Brook on Lamppost Lane. You're going to have kids walk across a commercial parking lot? When it rains, parents drive. Are they going to be allowed into this private property to park? Is the business that exists there, are they going to allow non-employees to park on their property? What about liability? But do you have permission for parents to drive their kids in rain and snow?
No, we will have an easement for pedestrian access. That's what we'll have.
Okay, so parents will not be allowed to drive?
They can drive on Richard Drive, they can drive to the public
Yeah,
street.
they can drive out and get on Richard Drive on the public street, not through the parking lot. I don't think we want people driving through the parking lot.
Okay. Bad plan?
Michael Evans, 204 Friar Court, Mechanicsburg, Village of Westover. I talked to PennDOT, and I found out that what we have is a right turn only out of this area from Crossgate onto the Carlisle Pike. And if you're coming eastbound from the west, you cannot make a left-hand turn. I didn't know that before I started. And you cannot make a left-hand turn coming out of Crossgates. For those people that have done that, if they have an accident, it's their fault. Now, this is a very senior executive. He just retired, let me put that way, but he employed and named all the people that you're going to talk to. And he's already talked to them. So the only thing you can do coming out of this Crossgates is make a right-hand turn. Now, where are these people going to turn around? Well, they're going to go into No Acres and come out at the light by the by the Sunoco gas station. So we said there would be no access into No Acres, but it's going to happen, regardless of whether we want it or not. So now we can turn right out of No Acres. We cannot turn left going eastbound. So you have to go across the bridge and then come back to make a right into No Acres onto Crossgates. I just found this out and I thought I would share it with you.
traffic impact study, maybe Jared can clarify, indicates that it should be a right turn out of there only and prohibit left-hand turns.
May I speak to that very thing?
Let's
Not, because I've got a letter from Jared right here to the township on it.
I want you to.
Okay.
Thank you.
So on July 27th, 1978, PennDOT issued a permit for that. I have a copy of it right here, and essentially what it shows on the third page is the schematic figure of the Cross Gates Drive as well as the Denny's driveway. And the configuration for that access point right now is it's a right in, right out, left in. So to enter into Cross Gates, you can essentially enter from the east or the west. When exiting, it is a right out only. So the configuration of that access will remain just as it is for all of the existing businesses that currently exist on Cross Gates Drive.
So the left turn in, and I'm not a traffic engineer, so bear with me, but from 1978 till today, how much wider is the Carlisle Pike at that location? Is it the same width as it was in 78?
Yeah, that curb line hasn't moved. This is the permit for that access point.
Yeah, thank you.
And Jared, maybe you can speak here, I'm sorry, real quick, sir. In terms of, with the traffic study having already been completed with the scoping study, if the scoping study is done and restricts, is there a possibility that it could be restricted here in terms of a turn from the Carlisle Pike?
So as we work through PennDOT, I mean, they will review the scoping application, the study that was completed, and then we will look at the classification and the volume that's added to the driveway, and then they will, at that point, provide any feedback on the existing geometry of that driveway.
So that's a possibility.
They may force other restrictions, or as we had indicated in our report, we're willing to go out there and add the signage and pavement markings that should be
Right now,
in place.
there is not.
Yeah, because there's nothing out there right now, so, but we are, as part of the study, as a plan, is to go out there and, as a maintenance item, go out, repaint those, lines and add the necessary signs. Permit actually shows, signage that over the years just has probably been removed, and, but we are willing to put that back up.
Sir?
Thank you. Just one other comment on that, Daniel Hooven, 5800 Stevens Crossing. In a letter dated April 8th from Mr. Neal to Manager Metz, he further conveys regarding that right turn on exit only, that this does result in motorists making illegal movements or force them to then U-turn along the Carlisle Pike, acknowledging the obvious risk associated with that intersection.
Commissioners, as you likely know, once a scoping application is submitted by the developer, the township would be engaged in the process of evaluating PennDOT's ultimate decision, which would include staff and your third-party traffic engineers' review of comments, as well as likely any review of accident reports and things like that over a period of time.
One of the things that I would expect, if in fact there's a motion to approve, would be the issue of the PennDOT approval. I think, Mr. Courtney, you referred to that. With respect, I guess where I'm coming from right now, as much as, in all honesty, I'll be polite to say I'm not crazy about the project. There's a lot about it that I don't like. But I also don't see anything that violates our ordinances other than the issues that we've talked about this evening that would require approval, PennDOT approval, or some of the other things that we've talked about having to do with water retention and all of those kinds of things. With that having been said.
Look, I'm not, I'll agree that, I don't think this concept, I really dislike the concept of residential hotel. Now, it's my understanding that we would have to, if it meets all the zoning criteria, all the requirements of that zone, we'd have to approve it essentially. So the question is, soliciting, there's two waiver
another issue, and moreover, if they're justified, then it's your prerogative to grant that. And to echo an earlier comment, if this plan meets the requirements of your ordinance, you must approve. If you deny it, you must identify specifically how this plan has not met the requirements of your ordinance. We've been down this path many, many times before. I've given you that advice for years. And that's the way the law is in this situation. If you deny a plan, you must cite the specific section of the ordinance that this plan does not comply with.
So,
And let me go back to the PennDOT issue. That is a decision by a outside agency of the Commonwealth. You have no control over that. They're gonna have to meet whatever requirements PennDOT comes up with. Yes, the township will be part of the scoping process and have input to PennDOT, but it's PennDOT's decision. It may be the worst plan in the world with respect to access to the Carlisle Pike, but this board cannot deny this plan on the concept that it's a terrible idea, accessing the pike at that location. The law is extremely clear. It is a PennDOT decision to make, not this board's.
And to keep going on what I was saying, I mean, I certainly can see the value in the waiver request for number 2 there, with the stormwater volume control in that region, but in terms of the idea for granting a waiver for the marginal access street, I'm not sold on that.
All I can say is use your common sense. How can this developer put in a marginal access street? How is that possible?
Then don't
You
build.
need to make that decision.
The only other
And
thing
don't
I'll add
approve
to
it.
that is that we had
Consider access
previously
worth the
contemplated
contract.
connecting into Richard Drive or Williams Drive, and that was determined that we could not do that. So in this state, we don't have any options to even put in a marginal access road based on that zoning determination.
Yeah, so relative to the waivers on requested, I've seen numerous occasions where similar situations have occurred where we've granted those waivers. I still have issues and concerns about the request of the fire administrator for rear stabilization, and what provisions there are to address that.
Can we make that a condition that they have to say the only thing? Yeah.
I believe that's a question for the solicitor.
Is it required in the ordinance? Is it required in the ordinance?
I'm not sure.
Well, if you're not sure, I'm not sure.
Well, I showed you a provision that
Why don't you read that provision? You brought it up.
is it gonna take long, or do you have, because I have a question for the developer.
All these people.
Okay. I do have a question for the developers. So what traffic flow do you foresee coming out of the development? So all the traffic has to go to the right. Anyone who wants to go eastbound, what is your solution for that traffic? When you sit down with PennDOT, what is your solution?
Traffic that wants to go eastbound?
Yeah.
Here.
I mean, seriously, I mean, I get where we're
Yeah.
at, but I mean, from a
think this-
common sense perspective,
Yeah.
that's my ask.
Yeah.
Like, what solution is there, Charlie?
They're gonna turn around somewhere, there's no question about that. Long term, the solution that I see, the park in, we know is gonna get redeveloped. The people that are looking at that reached out to us, they want access to Cross Gates Drive. We think having access to the signal makes sense. I think that's where the solution ultimately is gonna be, not for this plan, but that's where the solution solution is ultimately gonna be. And, you know, they'll have access across Gates Drive, we'll have access to the signal. That's what's gonna make sense. That's where things are gonna head. It's just, it's gonna take a little time for that to play out.
So you do agree with the representations of the residents that that is a traffic issue?
Well, I think, look, I mean, coming out onto the pike, if you're gonna head eastbound, if you wanna go eastbound, you're gonna turn around somewhere. You know, the percentage of traffic that this project's gonna have in the pike is gonna be insignificant to what the pike has.
That's
So
awesome.
people are gonna, they'll find a way to turn around. But again, I see that as a temporary condition, long term, that this property is gonna have access to that signal. Park in, however that gets redeveloped is gonna have access. That's what's gonna make sense. We're already starting to talk to that developer. You know, when the time comes and that plan comes in, you know, I think it would make sense to kind of coordinate the two projects.
Thank you for your honesty.
Yep.
So, there's a section 608(4) in the land development ordinance that reads, it's under other improvements, and it says, other improvements to promote public safety and health as required by the township commissioners as a condition of approval. So that would be the section that I was referring to.
That's not as exact as I'd like it to be, but obviously it's written to give the commissioners the ability to impose a condition that they feel is appropriate. And we're talking about the stabilization of the area behind the building.
Correct. The fire administrator's recommendations on multiple occasions is that the rear of the buildings be stabilized sufficient to support fire apparatus in the event of an emergency.
So what if the terrain of the property doesn't allow it?
Could you talk louder, please?
So the grading is, they're grading the property, grade would be something they would need to address to accommodate fire apparatus.
Do you think you could do that? I mean, if that's a sticking point.
We can obviously stabilization of the properties. Go ahead.
The buildings aren't any higher.
Excuse me, people can't hear if you go up to the mics.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Again, Bob Schaffer. The buildings aren't any higher, less in height than any of the residential dwelling, two-story dwellings here. And I don't see aggregate roads or real roads going around any of our residential developments that occur here in the development. Along this parking lot here, which is about 50% of the density, there's a parking lot there that you could get all of those. There's some flat area that's along here, but these buildings are half the height of what's permissible by the township ordinance. And we don't have roads going around the rear of everybody's building home that's here. And these are less high. So when we talk about, we don't have concerns about rear access, it's intended, in my view, that that's for structures that the hoses won't reach. These buildings are also, have sprinkler systems.
And they're only 40 feet deep.
They're only 40 feet deep.
Let me get back to
Okay,
hold on a
and
second.
they're sprinklered everywhere.
Hold on a second. Let me get back to the
Yes, sir.
question that was asked. Can this be done? The commissioners need to make a decision whether they want to impose that condition, whether you want it or not. And the question is, can you do it? If it's a matter of changing the grade, you can stabilize the back area behind the building, is that right?
I do not believe that there is adequate area behind these structures that we could adjust the grade to allow for fire apparatus. I just don't see.
Mr. Miller, is that correct?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
I've not seen an attempt to demonstrate one way or another.
That would
And
certainly
again, sir,
require.
and
Yes, sir.
look, I guess I'll say something I say a million times. I know what I know and I know what I don't know. I don't know the first thing about fire response. I'm an engineer. when the fire administrator made the recommendations, not once but twice to township staff, and it's my responsibility to report that comment to the board of commissioners. I understand your position.
Sure.
The comment was made, there's provision in the ordinance that I'm not very familiar with, and I've asked for a recommendation from solicitor. The board of commissioners will need to make some kind of determination. The question is, can it or cannot be done? I do not know.
I would defer to our engineer, you know, who may have a better idea of what the grading, I know that the grading was very restrictive, you know, when it talks about tying into the existing PennDOT rights of way on the other side of that Crossgate Drive, but Ron can speak to that.
Thank you. Commissioners, if I may, if you contemplate the landscape of the township and the type of dwelling units that already exist, there are many out there that I personally believe don't have stabilized through access. My house that I'm sitting in right now doesn't have that. In fact, it's got a fenced-in backyard, but it doesn't have sprinklers. So that's the only comment that I have to add.
Again, as we indicate, these will be sprinkled buildings. And there's full access, and we've illustrated the ability for fire apparatus to negotiate the entirety of the property. And as Bob alluded to, these are very shallow buildings, so again, we don't believe that there'd be any impediment to being able to service the rears of these buildings for fire safety. The question is, can you get behind them? I mean, the grading is configured now, no. Could you flatten those out, put retaining walls in some of those areas? You could, for that purpose. It'd be very difficult and a lot of effort for what I think is limited or no benefit. A more problem would be these units on the sides, because there really isn't sufficient room, I don't believe, to negotiate a fire apparatus to stabilize this, flatten this area out, and then negotiate around it with the fire trucks. Again, I don't believe that that's a practical solution.
Again, I'm just sitting here looking at common sense perspective. This is parking lot here. So arguably, if 20 feet smaller than a residential two-story homes is problematic on a sprinkler project to be able to get, this is parking lot over here that gets the rear access of all of these buildings. Right here's parking lot that gives access to the rear of this. Arguably, right in here, you could get some level of reach here. And then, so what we're, in these center units, obviously you have rear access on either side here. And this is flat between here. So arguably, these 5 buildings right here might be problematic. We had one resident say that he offered the entrance to go through there, although I suspect that was less than, regardless. I'll leave it there. So we do have a few buildings. From a common sense application, 50% of this development already does have, just in the way that it is, access. And again, they're all sprinkler buildings.
So can you explain the floor plan of that, say, a building? Is it all one, is the second floor one unit, or is it multiple units? So the second floor of one of those buildings?
Identical to the first one. They're identical.
Right, but how many units,
There's 5 up and 5 down.
5 on the
five
first floor, 5
residential
on the second
units
floor.
on each floor? Okay.
And as a matter of fact, the sprinkler code calls for, because it's a sprinkler building, it calls for a 30-minute separation. We provide double that in separation between the units, vertically and horizontally.
The other thing you're not seeing here too, is the grading doesn't show up on here, is that we have stormwater management basin here and stormwater management basin there. That would also be difficult to work around as far as getting access to it.
Jeremy?
So I'll say this, and Jared probably might echo, how many times have you heard common sense relative to traffic? And I'm not a fire, I know nothing about fire.
I'm not
I
asking
define-
common sense. So, this here, if they stabilize that, and how, first of all, how would you get the truck in back here?
So, again, I don't know what the turning radius would be there relative